All right, let's dive right in. Today, we are tackling a question that is absolutely fundamental. It shapes our personal lives, our laws, our entire societies, and it's a question that we all feel like we know the answer to, right up until someone actually asks us to define it. So let's do it. I'm asking you, right now, what is morality? We all have this gut feeling about it, right? A sense of right and wrong, good and bad, but pinning down what it actually is, that's where things get surprisingly tricky. And get this, that's a quote from the philosopher Russ Shafer Landeu, whose work is our source for this explainer. And it's kind of a bombshell, isn't it? Even the experts, the people who spend their entire lives thinking about this stuff, don't have one single definition they can all agree on. So if there's no official dictionary entry, how in the world are we supposed to even talk about it clearly? Yeah, that's the big challenge. It can feel like we're totally lost before we even start. But here's the good news. The lack of a perfect, one-sentence definition doesn't mean we're just stuck in the dark. Instead of chasing some elusive, perfect answer, we're going to do something way more practical. We're going to build a toolkit, a set of mental tools that will let us take apart moral questions with some real precision, see the landscape of different arguments, and, maybe most importantly, have way clearer and more productive conversations about all of it. So, let's get started. Okay, first tool out of the box. And honestly, this one might be the most important of them all. It's a pair of lenses that helps us see morality in two completely different ways: conventional morality and critical morality. So let's break this down. On one hand, you've got conventional morality. This is basically just what everybody thinks, the unwritten rules of a society. Tipping your server in the US is a perfect example. It feels wrong not to do it, but that's a social custom, not some universal truth. Now, on the other hand, we have critical morality. This is the standard we're going to focus on. It allows us to stand back and ask the really tough questions, like, hey, is our conventional morality actually, good? Critical morality is the tool we use to challenge the status quo and push for something better. Awesome! We have our lenses. Now let's add the next couple of crucial tools to our kit. We're going to need a map, so we know what part of the moral territory we're in, and we need a solid foundation to build our arguments on so they don't just fall apart. Okay, this is our map. Moral philosophy usually gets broken down into these three big areas. First, value theory. That's all about the destination. What's the goal? A happy life? A meaningful one? Then you've got normative ethics. This is about the path to get there. What are the rules of the road? What makes an action right or wrong? And finally, metaethics. This one zooms way, way out and asks about the map itself. Are moral truths even real? Can a moral claim be true or false in the first place? Knowing this helps us figure out what kind of question we're really trying to answer. And this is our foundation. To stop every single moral debate from ending in, well, that's just your opinion, we need some common ground to stand on. These aren't ironclad rules, but they are super plausible, common sense starting points most of us can agree on. Like, intense pointless suffering is bad, or that if you're going to hurt someone on purpose, you'd better have a really good reason. This is what allows us to have a rational discussion instead of just shouting at each other. Our next tool is all about sharpening our focus. Because, sometimes the best way to understand what something is to get really clear on everything it is not. So let's clear away some of the things that get confused with morality all the time. Let's make some really important distinctions here. First step, the law is not the same as morality. Cheating on your partner might be immoral, but it's not illegal. Etiquette isn't morality. Using the wrong fork at a fancy dinner is a social mistake, not a sign of a bad character. Self-interest is not morality. In fact, doing the right thing, like being a whistleblower, can sometimes cost you everything. And this last one is huge. Tradition is not morality. Just because something has been done for a long time, like slavery was, that doesn't make it right, not even close. Okay, the toolkit is built. We've got our lenses, we've got our map, we've got a foundation, and we've cleared out the clutter. Now, it's time for the stress test. Let's use these tools on one of the oldest and most powerful ideas about where morality comes from: religion. So, we're going to zoom in on a specific idea known as the divine command theory. The core of it is pretty simple. Something is good because God says it's good, and something is bad because God says it's bad. Full stop. God is literally the author of morality. On the surface, it sounds pretty solid, right? But let's put our new toolkit to work. This right here is the classic problem, a question that Socrates posed thousands of years ago. It forces us into a corner. Is it option one? God sees what is already good and tells us to do it, Or is it option 2? Things are only good because God decides they are. The divine command theory plants its flag firmly on option 2. So let's see where that leads. And here's the huge problem that comes up. If things have no moral value until God makes a command, then there are no moral reasons for God's commands. It means God could just as easily have commanded cruelty and forbidden kindness. And if that happened, then according to this theory, being cruel would suddenly become the right thing to do. That makes morality seem totally random, which doesn't really fit with the idea of a morally perfect being. We can actually lay this out as a clear, logical argument. Premise 1, if the theory is true, God could have made cruelty good. That just follows from the theory itself. Premise 2, a morally perfect being just wouldn't do that. It's part of what it means to be perfect. So, if you accept both of those premises, the conclusion is unavoidable. The divine command theory must be false. And notice, this isn't an argument about whether God exists. It's a logical look at the claim that God is the creator of morality. This whole line of thought leads to a fascinating alternative. What if morality is an independent truth, kind of like math? In that case, an all-knowing God wouldn't invent it, but would understand it perfectly. So God isn't the author of morality, but is its ultimate, infallible reporter. God commands kindness because kindness is good, period. So let's just step back and look at the awesome toolkit you've just put together. You've got your lenses to tell the difference between social rules and deeper truths. You've got a map to navigate all the different kinds of moral questions. You have a solid foundation to start your conversations, a sharpener to clear away all the confusion, and a method to logically stress test the biggest ideas out there. And that brings us to the final huge question. We've used our new toolkit to show that morality isn't as simple as following tradition or obeying the law or even just listening to divine commands. We've cleared away all the easy answers, and that leaves us staring right at the biggest question of them all, the one this toolkit now gives you the power to explore for yourself. If morality is a real, independent standard, where on earth does it come from?